Got some breaking news for you now, and it's this. The FBI have released these suspect photos on their social media feed, asking for the public's help in identifying this person of interest in connection with the fatal shooting, the assassination of Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. If you look at those pictures there, it appears to be very much an average college-aged kid. It appears to be a white male, we're hearing, wearing sunglasses. And as you can see on your screens, if you're listening on radio, a black baseball cap, and appears to be a sweatshirt with a Stars and Stripes flag on, basically. It could be any ordinary college kid, which in a sense makes this even more chilling. Let's discuss this in the studio. I'm joined by GB News' political editor Chris Hope, and also the peer, the former Labour MP and the former government's independent advisor on extremism, Lord Walmley. Welcome to you both. Chris Hope, let's start with this incredible breaking news. The FBI have released these early pictures. Of course, this isn't necessarily the assassin himself, but it appears to be that still at large, somehow evaded the FBI, simply walked onto a roof, took a shot and strolled away. The gun was found in woodland with an imprint of his hand, we understand, and forearm. And the most astonishing piece of information to come out this afternoon, ammunition found engraved with, quote, trans ideology and anti-fascist messaging. Now, more or less straight after the assassination of Charlie Kirk last night in Utah, Chris, Donald Trump said this was the radical left. And he said that comparing wonderful Americans like Charlie Kirk to Nazis made conservatives into targets. That theory seems to be gathering momentum.
Yes, Martin, it's deeply chilling. And what is, I think, extremely chilling is that the moment he started talking about trans ideology and shootings, he was shot and killed. So it just, you know, the FBI look at this close, of course, in the States, and it's their investigation, but it is chilling. In the past few hours, we've spoken to Warren Stevens, who's the US ambassador for America, for the UK, who's here, and he said that he feels for Charlie Kirk's widow, and he has called for political rhetoric, Martin, to be dialed down. And there's a concern in the States, of course, about what they see as censorship here, the fact you can be arrested for putting messages on social media. I think everyone wants to just dial it down a bit, dial down the rhetoric, and it matters as much here as over there. OK, well, let's go to our national reporter, Charlie Peters, now, with more of an update on this latest incredible information. It's coming thick and fast, Charlie Peters. Now, the FBI released the first suspect photographs. Tell us more.
Well, Martin, it's very interesting. These two photos that the FBI have released out of their Salt Lake City field office link to the earlier briefing we had, that intelligence update at 2 p.m. UK time, when we heard from the special agent on the ground there and also from the Public Safety Commissioner, because they referred to the suspect moving inside stairs at the Lossy Centre, the rooftop of which was used to fire that single fatal shot from a bolt-action rifle that has since been recovered. And in the two images that we're showing on your screen right now, the photo on the left, the first image they've released, shows a man walking up a stairwell. And he's a white man, he's wearing sunglasses, a cap, and what appears to be an American flag on a black full-length T-shirt, plus with long sleeves, plus some jeans and what appear to be some sneakers. And a second photo against a wall, the same outfit repeated, potentially an eagle at the centre of that emblem, though we can't quite be sure with the quality of the CCTV footage released. And they believe that the man you're seeing on your screen right now in that red circle is also the man that we're looking at with these FBI images released. So a clear intelligence link between the briefing they gave us earlier. They're appealing for information, saying we are asking for the public's help in identifying this person of interest in connection with the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. We've also since had information leaked to the American media, in particular the Wall Street Journal, getting law enforcement sources from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms, which is a judicial authority within the United States that does sorts of investigations into the movement of narcotics and firearms in the US, saying that engravings some of the cartridges and ammunition found on that bolt-action rifle, which was said to be an old hunting-style rifle, had transgender and anti-fascist ideology engravings on them. So this is the person of interest they believe is linked not only with the shooting, but also, of course, those engravings. Now, we haven't had official words from the FBI on that leaked information, reportedly from an ATF intelligence report on the ammunition inside the rifle that was found in a wooded area close to that shooting position. And of course, they are releasing this information because they haven't got a suspect. The FBI has likely had this CCTV for several hours. They almost certainly had this imagery long before the press conference they gave at 2 p.m. and did not likely want to release it. But they've been forced to do so because they are still hunting for a suspect in custody, having made 2 arrests yesterday, both of them released, and both of those people since receiving death threats. And with the intelligence picture we have now and the timing that has passed, coming up in 24 hours since this fatal shooting of the American conservative influencer and commentator, they will be especially concerned that in Utah, that this suspect could have travelled very far indeed. An airport is just 45 minutes away. We do know that this suspect is said to have tried to blend in with the student population, and particularly at a sort of conservative political event, him wearing an American flag and dressing in that style, likely an attempt to blend in with what was almost certainly a sort of a surge in conservative students on campus that day. He was said to have jumped from the roof of that building you're seeing on your screen now, the Losi Centre, just 150 yards away from the shooting, and then fled from that scene to the woodland where that rifle was abandoned. We've also got information from the FBI as part of the intelligence picture that they revealed at 2 p.m. that they have forearm prints and also a footwear imprint. Now, the forearm imprint, I presume, it's just a deductive assessment, really, not based on anything they've confirmed, but I presume that's from the prone position that the shooter was in on the roof, because we know that he arrived at that scene at about 11:52, with the shot being fired at 12:05. So a long time for a shooter to take up a prone position on that rooftop, 150 yards away from where Charlie Kirk was shot. So it's highly likely that those are the imprints that the FBI have taken. Now, we also know that while the FBI are assessing these images, that they are likely going to be putting them through facial recognition technology. That will be hampered by, of course, the wearing of very large sunglasses, aviator style, I've seen them described elsewhere, and also wearing a cap to reduce the amount of facial recognition technology that they could apply to this suspect. But also, they're going to be scouring the weapon they've recovered for every ounce of forensic intelligence and information it offers, because there'll be so much on there, particularly with those engravings. The ATF and the FBI have confirmed they've taken that to a lab for assessment, and because it's an old-style hunting rifle, as we understand it, that could also provide some information on previous uses. But at this stage, the FBI, in their latest update on their probe into the killing of Charlie Kirk, described as a political assassination last night, they're asking for the public's help to identify this person of interest, with 2 photos released just in the last few minutes.
Thank you, Charlie Peters, for bringing us fully up to speed there. Let's get back to the studio now. I want to bring in my studio guest, and that is the former Labour MP, the peer, and the former government's independent advisor on extremism, Lord Walney. Lord Walney, it's always a pleasure to have your show, and you've written the gold standard report on extremism in the United Kingdom. And I wanted to ask a question to you that I've been asking throughout the show there. We've just seen there, just looks like an ordinary college kid. An ordinary college kid who, for some reason, has decided to commit the ultimate crime, which increasingly looks like a politically motivated assassination. First of all, it must make you utterly despair and break your heart that any young person would go to such lengths simply because they disagree with somebody.
That's right. And we do have this problem across a spectrum of ideologies of young people being radicalised, whether that is into radical Islamist thinking or the far right. But then, yes, also clearly a potential for the radicalisation into violence coming from the far left. You have seen thus far more of a tradition of that in the United States than in the UK, thankfully, but there are many radical activists who look over to the States to look at the extreme campaign tactics that are in use over there, and absolutely we have got to be vigilant for the kind of hate, aggression, violent tactics that are being used on the far left, spilling over into the assassination that we have, of course, seen. This is not a theoretical thing. We have seen this coming from an Islamist attacker, from a far-right attacker, in members of parliament being assassinated in recent years.
I want to ask you as well about, you said in your report that we seem to have something of a blind spot about far-left terrorism in the United Kingdom. I wonder if that's actually hiding in plain sight sometimes. And what I mean by that is we've seen John McDonnell, the former Labour Chancellor, yesterday at the TUC conference in Brighton, comparing Nigel Farage to Adolf Hitler. We've got the current Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, comparing Donald Trump to a fascist, to a Nazi, a KKK sympathiser. And it seems to be a constant political rhetoric now from those, even on the mainstream left, to compare mainstream political leaders like Nigel Farage to fascists. I put it to you, this is dangerous and it must stop.
Yeah, it's wrong and it's dangerous for two reasons. One, there is absolutely that sort of demonisation, dehumanisation of political opponents, which can fuel this idea that it's OK, therefore, to take the kind of action which you would never take to a fellow human being in the street otherwise. What it also does is it potentially drives more people to the extremes, because if you call Nigel Farage a Nazi, an extremist, then a lot of people look at that and say, well, hang on, I agree with him on immigration. So, maybe these people think that I'm an extremist or a Nazi as well, and they're more likely, therefore, potentially to go down the rabbit hole of genuine extremism.
And Chris Hope, we heard the Prime Minister call people far right after Southport. I put it to you that this othering, this demonisation of people, it goes to the very top of British politics. It's an absolute cancer and it needs to be stopped.
Yeah, it's not fair on those many of the people who are concerned about the Southport killings were not far right. They're just concerned about immigration and the state of this country. It seems to me, though, and what Lord Walmsley thinks of this, that yes, the racist claim is chucked at Reform UK's leaders or its members, but it's not really working, is it? Because the party's on 30 points in the polls. Almost people are seeing through this rhetoric for what it is, which is frankly some of it is name calling.
Well, they know they're not racist, and they're just ordinary people, as you said, have been dragged into to this all-encompassing smear. And how do we stop it?
I mean, let me be clear that there has been problems of some sort of extremism and racism on the alternative right, the parties that have formed and reformed to the right of the Conservative Party. But it cheapens the claim if you brand it widely to all the party and all of its supporters, and it actually drives people into the arms of extremism, means that the real extremism can often therefore not be tackled because people on the centre and on the left have cried wolf too many times and they're just not listened to anymore.
Lord Warney, finally, it's a question I just really don't know if I even want to know the answer to, but if we continue like this, we've already seen David Amos murdered. We've already seen Joe Cox murdered. If we continue like this, might we see something like Charlie Kirk happening on British soil?
I think that is something we have to be vigilant against, because there has indeed been a lack of understanding and focus by the security intelligence services, law enforcement on far-left ideology. And in a way that has been entirely rational, because it hasn't been where the violence has been. And there is still at the moment, thankfully, less of a danger of direct violence against people on the far left than there is on the far right. And then above both of those two, Islamism. However, a real theme of my right work has been to look at the criminal sabotage, the intimidation, the angry confrontational style of parts of the far left, which has actually been adopted by a number of organisations now, because I think that once you accept that kind of criminal behaviour as acceptable because it's in the name of your cause, there isn't an obvious philosophical end to that ratchet of radicalisation that could, in time, lead to violence against individuals, which may well be what you've seen with Charlie Kirk, has certainly been the case in the United States, you would see with the assassination of the healthcare leader, and we must be cauterise this now to stop it from spilling over.